Hey everyone, this is Zach, and today I wanted to talk about my hopes for Regulation E coming up for the 2024 VGC season. If you guys enjoy this content, do not forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments down below what are your hopes and expectations for Regulation E, because it should be coming here in a little more than a month. So we know that Regulation D here goes until the end of September. So October will come along and we will get Regulation E, but the big question is what Regulation E is going to be. Now, quick assumption is that we will see just the, Pokemon from the Teal Mask added in to the roster that we already have. But honestly, I don't want to see that. I want to see something else. And so if we look here, Regulation A, our Series 1, was only a month. And then Regulation B was 2 months. Same with C. I think C, April, May, June. So that was 3 months. And then Regulation D was 3 months as well. So these ones were cut fairly short, Regulation A and Regulation B. And so these metagames were very underexplored because of that. So honestly, something that I would love to see is that Regulation E gets rid of the Ruin Pokemon, gets rid of the sub-legendaries, gets rid of the Paradox Pokemon. I think if we went back to a Series A regional decks, but you now allowed in the Pokemon 1 from the Teal Mask and 2 from home that still meet those qualifications. So like Charizard, Typhlosion, just like the starters like Carbink, for example, those Pokemon could go into a Regulation E, which could be like a soft reset. And I feel like that would be kind of cool because once again, Regulation A and even Regulation B, very underexplored because of the way it was. Regulation A was just the regional decks. Regulation B allowed the Paradox Pokemon. Regulation C allowed the Rune Pokemon. And then Regulation D allowed the home compatibility. So you could take that Regulation A and then mold it so it fits some of the Pokemon from Pokemon Home and then Pokemon from the Teal Mask. And I feel like they could do that because if they release this information at the end of September, the DLC comes out on the 13th. So that would give people, or if they reveal it like when the DLC comes out, if they reveal it before like mid-September, that would give people a good amount of time to sit on Showdown with it. Because we know most of the Pokemon, like it has leaked, so we know most of the Pokemon that are going to be in the Teal Mask, besides a few. And then if you get the DLC, you have about 3 weeks, a little more than 3 weeks before Peoria Regional. And I think the next one other than that, you would have over a month for the Lily Regional, and then like you would have more than enough time for the Brisbane Regional. So I feel like they could do that and still give people enough time to prep and make a team. So that's what I want to see, because I feel like if there's not the Paradox Pokemon, if there is not the sub legendaries, if there's not the Paradox Pokemon, the Ruin Pokemon, and the sub legendaries, I feel like that would give a lot of these mons like room to breathe. So we would have to assume that like the only mons out of this list that would probably be allowed in that Regulation E would be Diplin and then Poltergeist. And then you get mons like Arbok. I can't see Arbok being used either way, but Clefairy, giving Clefairy time to develop, regular Ninetales, not to mention Alolan Ninetales, Polytoad would be another good one. Snorlax as well. You have things like Mamoswine. You have things like Dusclops, Milotic, Conkeldurr, Chandelure. All these mons, like I think adding these mons and not having them automatically go against the Paradox Pokemon. Like, think of how many of these mons would have problems against Fluttermane. So giving them time to breathe and time to develop in the metagame without those Paradox, sub-legendaries, all that stuff, I think that would be like really beneficial, and I feel like it would be a big enough change to shake up the metagame. Like Como, for example. You could take a Garchomp team from Series A and replace Garchomp with Como and do like a Clanger Scales kind of situation instead of Dragon Dance or Swords Dance and Clear Amulet. And not to mention, there is a bunch of things that we have learned as these regulations have progressed, and the way that we play mons have changed compared to Series 1. So if we look like Gyarados, for example, Gyarados at the beginning of any metagame where Gyarados is allowed, Gyarados usually starts out pretty offensive. So like something like Safety Goggles, Waterfall, Earthquake, Protect, Dragon Dance, maybe Terra Ground, and just like 252, 252. If you really wanted to, you could run Moxie on that as well and try to get another attack boost out of knockouts. But like the Gyarados we started seeing in Regulation C and Regulation D was a bulky one, a support one, Taunt, Thunder Wave, Waterfall, Protect, Terra Fairy, Terra Steel. So the breakdowns of these two mons between a way that you might play a Gyarados in Series 1, Regulation A, are versus a Gyarados that we were just using, 6 months later, is completely different. Not to mention, like, the way that we've played has shifted. Think of how predominant the use of Clear Amulet was in Series 1, Regulation A. A lot of the Intimidate mons, like the Gyarados, for example, like the Arcanine, for example, saw a drop in usage because like their ability wasn't useful at that time because of things like Clear Amulet. Now we don't use Clear Amulet as much. Would we go back to the Clear Amulet if we had the same rule set? Maybe, but odds are a lot of people are going to adapt what they've learned. Think of Palafin. Like, Palafin didn't really start to see its stride until like Regulation B and Regulation C. So think of like a metagame where Palafin doesn't have to deal with a Thundurus, doesn't have to deal with a Rillaboom. And there's also, like I said, new things that would still change it up and make the metagame feel different and give these Pokemon like a chance to shine before they have to deal with the Fluttermanes, with the Iron Hands, with the Tornadus, with the Thundurus, with the Chien-Pao. Como, for example, is probably always going to want a Terra, especially with that 4 times Fairy type weakness, the 2 times, or Ice is neutral with fighting, right? I feel like it's still weak to Ice. With the flying weakness, Como is probably going to want a Terra, but I feel like you could still like get more out of it if it started out not having to deal with a lot of these like heavy hitting mons that we see right now in Regulation D. Clefairy with Friend Guard is going to be amazing either way with Eviolite, but seeing that in a metagame without like those high powered legendaries and all that stuff, I feel like it would be even stronger to use. Dusclops here. Dusclops, like, you're gonna have your Trick Room option, and you're able to have a different option for Trick Room, where a lot of the Trick Room in early Regulation A was just Armorogue Indeedee with maybe a Torkoal in the back. Like, there weren't that many Trick Room setters, so giving Trick Room more options and a smaller like power level, I think would be really good, because I mean, even with these even with the Eviolite, you still had a challenge of making sure that you lived a Wicked Blow. And of course now you can Terra, but going up against Chen Pao and a Wicked Blow, like it would be really scary. And yes, you could Terra, but like, do you always want your support mon to Terra to get like a Trick Room off? Not really. Think of Dusclops trying to set up Trick Room against a Fluttermane Chi-Yu, for example. That's going to be tough. Like, so I feel like if they had some breathing room to go up against mons like closer to their power level, I feel like we'd be able to adapt them as the metagame progressed. Milotic, for example, Milotic's going to be really good either way, but having Milotic in a smaller metagame, like, it is going to be hard to deal with. And this is like good and bad, in all honesty. Like, there are some cons to it. Like, there are going to be things that are going to be more dominant. But think about Dondozo, for example. Dondozo no longer has that bug with order up, so it's more balanced, so to say. And then we now know we have lots of ways to deal with Dondozo. You have Clear Smog Amoonguss. You have Haze on Palafin. You have Haze on Murkrow. Like, those things are going to help build your teams and develop your teams. And even like something like Mandibuzz. I feel like Mandibuzz would do really well in a Regulation A type field, but I don't think it could do that with, you know, something like Iron Hands running around. Like, what is this thing gonna do against Iron Hands? So give it some time to like play without Iron Hands. Like, Tailwind, you have Taunt, and with this, you're immune to redirection with Rage Powder. You still have to deal with like the Follow Me and stuff, but you're a Dark type, you're immune to Prankster stuff. So like, you can get good Tailwinds up, you can get Taunts off. Mandibuzz could be really good in a Regulation A type format. And then just different ways to run the teams. Like, you can now have something like Charizard Ninetales. You could have Venusaur. Is Venusaur confirmed yet? I don't think Venusaur is confirmed yet for the Teal Mask. It's not confirmed yet for the Teal Mask, so maybe not Venusaur. But you can have Charizard Ninetales for Sun. We saw Charizard do a little bit when it first came with the home compatibility, but imagine like Charizard without dealing with the sub legendaries, without dealing with the Protomons. And I think this would make it a little fun. It really would. I think we could honestly take a breather to have a metagame without Chen Pao, Dragonite, without Fluttermane, Chi-Yu. I think that would make this metagame really fun, and it would give us more time to take those ideas that we had in Regulation A and expand upon them, because Regulation A was so short. Rain teams. You don't need Pelipper anymore. You could run the Politoed. You can run the Politoed. I mean, heck, even if you wanted to run the Politoed, there's Poliwrath. Like, you have other options. Like, what is its speed compared to Dreadnought? So Poliwrath is 70. I think Dreadnought's still faster. Dreadnought is 74. But still, like, this opens up so many like different options. Mamoswine would be really good. Like, think of Terra Poison Baxcalibur. You, instead of doing Terra Poison Baxcalibur, you have you have the Mamoswine to like help deal with it. Conkeldurr. Encounter being a solid Trick Room option, like with support. You can run Guts. You can run Iron Fist. Sheer Force. Like, Conkeldurr has so many good abilities. But I don't think like the mono fighting is hard, like, to compete for a spot on, like, versus Iron Hands, versus Urshifu, like having to deal with Fluttermane, having to deal with Rain and Tornadus, like Bleakwind Storms. I think they should give these mons room to breathe. Chandelure, Imprison, Trick Room, Heatwave, Flash Fire, could deal with Armorogue and DD decently well with Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball are, I believe it gets Dark Pulse. Yeah. Like, so imagine like Armorogue and DD. Imprison, Trick Room. And I would say Heatwave, Dark Pulse. You can go Terra Dark. Boom, there's your Armorogue and DD answer. So like something like this, like they would need Aura Spear to hit you. Like they would, like Armorogue would need Aura Spear to hit you. Trevenant, great Trick Room Mon, Harvest. Charjabug, boosting the special attack like a support Charjabug. Like it'd be harder to run. Cramorant. Someone's gonna make a Cramorant team. But I feel like it would be easier to like build with these mons if the pool of meta like was smaller. Snorlax, you know, my first team in Regulation A in Series 1 was a Greedent for Rigoraph team. Now imagine like if I could have the belly drum strategy, but I don't need this, I don't need the Greedent. Like I can run a Snorlax instead, and Snorlax has more power than Greedent, I believe. Snorlax is base 30. Greedent is base 20, so Greedent is slower, but like Snorlax is a little bit bulkier and has higher attack. So like you sacrifice a little bit of that speed to get more power in return. I don't know. I do honestly think that like is Politoed gonna do well in any format with that it has rain? Yeah, but why run Politoed when you can just have a Tornadus with Rain Dance or Sunny Day? How well is Charizard gonna do if there's all these ruined Pokemon, like things like Iron Hands, like flying around? Milotic will still be decent. Clefairy will still be useful. I think Dusclops might be hard depending on like what team you're going up against. So at the end of the day, what I'm saying is I would love to see them, you know, go back to that Regulation A. Like, in all honesty, like it wouldn't cut out a lot of mons. So I feel like they can make it work. I feel like you're adding in more mons than you are taking away. So like it gives a chance for the metagame to develop in like different directions again, which I think would be a like really cool thing to do. The only reason why I think that this probably won't happen is because if, you know, I'm looking at my calendar. If Regulation E starts in October, then you have November and December. Oh, that takes you to the end of the year. You run 3 months of Regulation E, and hopefully by then, Indigo Disc is out. And if Indigo Disc comes out, they can do the same thing with Indigo Disc and then have 3 months of Indigo Disc. And then Indigo Disc could be like Regulation F, go January, February, March. Then you can bring back the subs and the paradoxes at the same time. And then like, so we would get access to like Raging Bolt then. I don't know. I don't want to be one of those people that say that the metagame is lame because of these Pokemon. But I wouldn't mind a change of pace. Like, granted, when they did the ban list in Sword and Shield, it was during a time where there was no tournaments, so it really didn't factor anything at all. And even like with the Players Cup that was running during that time period, they still ran the prior format that allowed those Pokemon. But I do really think they could mix it up here. I would love to be able to like use these mons and not worry about like the power creep that has been plaguing Pokemon for a very long time. I don't know. I think it would just lead to some creative team building. It would lead to a lot of fun, and it would probably bring some people back in, because I do know a lot of people were discouraged by the Pokemon Home issues of getting the right mons, the Paradox Pokemon being very powerful, the Rune Pokemon being just as powerful and just enabling most of the Paradox mons to do even better. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed hearing me ramble. Hopefully I'm able to cut this down so it's not as long. And if you enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe. Support your local teachers union. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you think about my idea? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you want to see for Regulation E? Anyways, that's going to be all for today. Till next time, I'm Zach. We'll see everyone later.